Well, g'day everyone. Well, I was just removing this old trailer loom from the EB, just in case you've forgotten what it looks like. And I was reminded of a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm going to get a close-up of this cable joining device. And it doesn't like zooming in when it's right up close. Let's zoom it out. Now, if you don't know what one of these things are, this thing is a 3M scotch lock connector. It will do a 18 to 14 gauge in the AWG, which is the Australian wire gauge chart. So, you know, it'll do fairly reasonable-ish sort of sized, it'll do fairly reasonable sort of sized, you know, cable. So if you've never seen one of these things, I'm going to show you how it works, where you would expect to find it, and why they're shit. So the first thing to note about this thing is this metal plate. If I can get a close-up of that. It's a metal plate. The camera really doesn't like focusing on things that don't take up most of the picture I should say. Okay, you got that metal plate you can see there. They got two slots cut in it. So if I put this camera down, I probably can't get this out. Let's get the old cheap ass slip joint pliers. So this is what this thing has that actually does the joining. This is, if it's ever going to focus, there you go, that's what actually does the joining. It's made of aluminium, blah blah blah, pretty obvious how it works, but I'm going to show you anyway. And so when you get a new scotch lock connector, if I can just get this bloody thing back together, it's been used already, so that's why it's a little bit sad. Like, it's just sort of come off the car less than 2 minutes ago. That's how they look when they're. Let's see if I can get a focus. There we go. That's what they look like when they've never been used. You know, they sort of come like this. And let's say you want to join two bits of wire together, and these things are quite flexible. Like, you know, they're just pretty obviously designed so you can lay the two wires in there. You know, and you just join them together. So I really need a bloody tripod, but. Let's see if I can let's see if I can do this without a tripod. It's not going to happen. I need some kind of bloody assistant to hold this, but anyway, you know, break my tripod too. Whoops. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. You got your scotch lock connector. And usually you use, you know, two bits of wire that are even slightly straight. Now you lay these two cables in these grooves, if you like. They sit there just like that. Let's push them a bit further forward, okay? So they kind of lay in there like that. Right? See, they got their individual channel they lay in. Now this you know, flappy bit there, it works. That groove in the centre of it works to kind of push on that metal bit. Then you get your pliers, and they're as simple as this, and you just sort of squeeze them together. They probably work better when they haven't already been, you know, on a car and didn't really feel like it. No, that's it. Okay, so that's it. The cable's joined. It's a little bit on the loose side, but anyway, the cable's joined. It's secure. And it's making a good electrical connection. Now what it actually does, if I open this thing up and show you, this is how it actually joins the cable together. It cuts through the insulation. This camera wants to focus on the bloody bit of shit here instead of the background. There we go. It cuts through the insulation here and basically bites into the copper on the wire. So the problem with doing that is that what's inevitably going to happen, unless you've taped it really, really thoroughly, you've got a cable tied to something and it can't move around due to vibration and slack in the cable. It's going to eventually either wear through the copper strands and eventually break through the wire, and I've seen that happen a lot. Or it could short circuit due to water or moisture. There's not even a very secure way of, you know, these things. Okay, it's been used. Granted, if it was a new one, it might be better. But because it allows for such a decent range of cables, it's never really going to be secure unless you use the thickest, which is the 14 gauge cable instead of the 18, because 18 is obviously quite a lot smaller than 14. It's always going to have that little bit of slack. As you can see, it's not really very secure. It's not tight. So, yes, I am kind of flaming these fucking Scotch lock connectors. And if you like them, I don't even want to hear about it. Now, the only time the use of these things is acceptable is when you're broken down. You absolutely have to get your trailer lights working, or, you know, there's a fault that's developed with the car, which is bloody unlikely, but you are quite acceptably allowed to join cables with this connector if it's an emergency and you have to get something going. They're great for emergencies, but when you get home, the best way of joining cable is with heat shrink and a soldering iron, or crimp connectors and heat shrink. You know, something that's secure, well insulated. You're not going to have any chance of the cable being cut through. And a good note for these Scotch lock connectors as well is that they're only designed for low current applications. Would you use it on any part of a fuel management system? No, because it's not a very good connector. It'll invariably end up with higher resistance in the cable, and ECUs that rely on resistance for sensors and feedback from sensors that's, you know, like maybe very small, very low voltage feedback, like an oxygen sensor, for example. You know, it goes between 0 and 1 volt output. So if this has got any resistance in it, it's going to run like crap and use tons of fuel. So yeah, don't use them unless you absolutely have to, and as soon as you can, get rid of the Scotch lock connector, throw it in the bin, and join it properly, because this is probably one of the worst ways of joining a cable, probably second only to twisting the wires together. So yeah, just my little bit of advice.